Hey everyone, RemanX here, and we're going to go through a really detailed analysis of the characters coming out in the Bionic Avenger category. One of the questions I get asked all the time is, do I think this will be the Scourge team? So we're going to... The Scourge team. The Scourge team. And we'll evaluate if they're actually going to be the kit to the characters to invest in. So first things first, they're going to be a phenomenal raid team. We're going to evaluate them in additional game modes and go over kind of all the things they do outside of war, or outside of raids, which I've eliminated from all of the text here. And you can follow up on my Discord and see the additional original files if you guys want, where it breaks everything down. All right, so I hope you guys enjoy this. We're going to be, again, digging into this and kind of evaluating this team outside of raids. All right, so Hulkbuster is a very interesting kit. Now, one thing about these characters is, when we're thinking about Scourges, we always want to evaluate a basic. And the basic attack is just a primary target for 300% damage. So the misses out on the extra barrier, but that doesn't seem like a big deal because of the fact that he's going to be applying offense down on his special or his ult, which is going to be the barrier there as well. So that's going to help with like front-loaded damage, being able to apply this slow. So this is going to be a big deal from the perspective of the fact that it's unavoidable. So you can actually start taking advantage and getting extra turns in that regard. So you'll see that there's also ability energy. Most of these characters do have ability energy generation, but again, one of the things you're going to see is some of them lose that, but his special is going to apply that ability energy. Now the special is going to feel a little bit like a need to do to try to help heal your team up, and because it's random, that's right, you guessed it, it kind of helps favor the Scourge. So moving on, right? So they don't gain as much health outside of it. So Iron Man, I think, is going to be one of the most essential characters on this team because of one specific thing about this. When you dig in here, you're going to see a bunch of ability blocks, a bunch of blinds, slows, and additional negative effects. So his rocket barrage is amazing. All right, because a rocket barrage is going to prolong the duration of all negative effects by 1 on each target. So if he gets enough energy to bring this up multiple times, you can fully control waves. All right, and what that means is having characters' ability blocked, etc., is going to allow you to get additional turns off and control the team to the point where you can let that passive ability on Viv Vision, which we'll go into more detail, start healing them up. It's also important to remember that he applies defense down, so we can prep targets for massive amounts of damage. Again, you'll see that this is... you'll see a bunch of assists here with assist mechanics. They might wind up being Striker and Skirmisher outside of it, but I still think Raider is probably the way to go. And you'll see why in a moment. And then you could see the multiple times that each character can generate ability energy for the team, which is going to be very, very important when we get the Viv's kit. The crit and crit damage bonus is actually pretty high here. So Vision, again, with his ability to apply offense down, the bleeds. But I think the most important thing over here is the solar beam, the clear 2 positive effects. But probably from an effective stance on this is the ability block and how important that is. It's going to be 2 turns. So that is a huge ability block from that standpoint, especially if you can extend it to 3 turns. You can take somebody out of the fight until you selectively pick them off at the end. It's been one of the most powerful abilities in the game because it's not just one target, it's one target and one adjacent target. So 2 characters ability blocked. So he's always been kind of like a useful character that just needed some stats to bring him back into the future. And he is back, with a vengeance here. And so you'll see that, again, additional ability energy, which is going to be helpful to help heal this target up. And more importantly, when he does his dive bomb, he'll be able to start helping top Viv off. Okay, so beyond that, Deathlock I think has the most interesting. And what Deathlock kind of opened up my eyes to was how this team is going to work. Because when I'm done evaluating this team as a Scourge team, we're going to talk about them in war and war offense and defense. Including Crucible too, so stay tuned. What's interesting about this is you got the bonus attack, so he has quite a bit of, his basic attack is insane. All right, so 500% damage on his basic. So basically a finishing blow. Offense up for 2 turns, so prepping for massive damage. The multiple bleeds, generating ability energy, right? All built into that. He has that, and then his EMP blast, right? another ability block for the team. But here's the most important part of this, and what made me really think about how to use this team. This team is a team that slowly builds to a massive power overload. They start with a base 15% damage when Deathlock takes his first turn, and then he gains an additional 15% damage, so 15, 30, and then 45. So after 2 turns, this whole team, okay, is gaining 45% damage everywhere. So starting off the node with a control element, building up all these abilities, gradually healing up, and then picking off a couple of characters and going into the next wave with your offense up, your power can be devastating and just help you burst through the waves. So hopefully you can just, isolate additional characters and top yourself off with Viv's passive. So this team is exceptional, and it's going to be one of those things where, because there's some RNG to it, who gets ability energy, it kind of favors both offense and defense. Playing it in your hands, having the ability to target characters specifically with ability block, going to help determine when we figure out the speed on this team. But from the perspective of overall utility, they definitely feel like they're going to be the primary Scourge team. And because this is a raid team, they really feel a lot like Web Warriors to me in that regard. Because they're definitely, you saw the Web Warriors, as they dodge, they'd build up their speed up and their offense up and start doing the damage to the enemy team. This seems like they're going to be able to control a lot faster, a lot more often, and get that damage early on. So I really think when we're thinking about this isn't for the upcoming war character that's unannounced yet. This is going to be for the death character that's out in the future somewhere. So this has already been locked in as a Scourge team. So the question is, should you build this team to help get you the Death Horsemen? And the answer is, there's no reason not to build this team as a raid team. They're exceptional outside of all the game modes. So when we're looking at Viv here, what was interesting is the deflect, the most injured ally. And that's one of those things where you don't use that deflect stun, the block stun one, from a Scourge perspective. But you can see the deflect's gonna help with damage overall. And then the offense down for multiple characters, again, multiple debuffs being extended throughout the match is going to help this team just overcome the enemy. I expected it to look like a bunch of red dots over each character's head after the first 2 turns. And then, when you're looking at this, flip 2 negative effects to positive effects for all allies, which is super helpful. And then all negative effects to positive effects. This is super helpful, right? This is one of those things where it's a lifesaver, especially if you're facing some of those early, with a 6/6, some of those early Scourges. You can potentially do some of the heal blocks to give yourself death proof right away. So something to think about when we're looking and selecting Scourges for ourselves. That, the flip negative effects to positive effects is a big deal, and whenever we see that, we can kind of start picturing in our head how that's going to work when we're choosing the Scourges. And she has that blind, which we were talking about. The single target blind is going to be super helpful from a control element, and then having it extend. So that first turn, going in with heal block, getting the death proof, applying blind, having it extended by Iron Man, you're going to start shutting down characters. So very, very good team. And from a perspective of, let's say this team is facing, a team that's a little bit slower, that came out recently, Asgard, where a character throws up heal block, and you convert that to death proof, and then ability block and blind the entire team. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe this will be the Asgardian counter. Tends to feel like it might have some potential here. I wish there were some more disrupts on the team, because that really negatively affects the Asgardians. So we'll have to see if they can endure that much damage. But obviously with the 45% damage bonus over time, you can definitely gradually pick them off and control them to the point where you're not getting massive damage. So it does seem to be like they kind of, with the ability to kind of turn some of those negative effects to positive effects, if you can survive the damage from Thor, that's the big question. This team could potentially beat teams like Asgard. But we'll have to see. Again, it's a little bit too soon to tell, but it definitely was evaluating this from this perspective. So I think the Viv vision is going to feel a lot like the Web Warrior passive with the damage, except you're not going to be doing as much healing as the Web Warriors did. So it's going to be a lot more about control, using the small window of healing you're going to get when you have the ability energy gain. So it's going to be a lot more about control certain characters, taking them out of the fight, and then trying to figure out how to maximize your potential as you slowly build up damage. So definitely a fun team to play with. I think it's, I'm excited because this definitely feels like a really cool synergy team, and it looks like it's going to be fun to play, which is, checks kind of all those boxes for me. Is it fun to play, especially in raids? Eventually, we're hoping we're just going to hit that sim button and have our weekends back. All right, guys, I do things you don't have to, and I dug into this kit a little bit. If there's anything I missed, please feel free to add it in the comments. You guys take a look at my Discord, where I'll have all the additional breakdowns. They're actually the full kits are going to be there, and you'll also have the full kits for the out of war or out of raid, so you can break that down for yourself. So go ahead and hop on Discord and grab that. Thanks again.